Upon entering -9294Z, the most disturbing feature is the entrance itself. Individuals approach a standard elevator that appears within the real world or in specific locations, such as old, abandoned office buildings or research facilities. The elevator doors open to reveal a yellow-lit office, and as soon as the individual steps inside, the doors close behind him. However, once the subject attempts to exit, the elevator disappears, and the door is no longer visible. If the individual looks behind him after stepping off the elevator, they are greeted by an endless expanse of cubicles, more infinite than before. Walls or boundaries never form, and the door they entered through becomes untraceable. No way back, the elevator and entrance seem to vanish completely, as though the elevator never existed. The subject is left with no exit in sight, and the concept of escape is entirely lost. Perspective shift. The cubicle shift as well when observed from behind. The infinite nature of the space warps reality, and it becomes impossible to tell which direction is back or forward. Every attempt to navigate away from the entrance feels as though you are merely stepping deeper into a labyrinth of endless rooms and distorted hallways of cubicles. This entrance phenomenon contributes heavily to the psychological effects described earlier, as it further disorients the individual. The infinite nature of -9294Z creates an environment where time, space, and orientation become meaningless. The subject might no longer remember how they entered, and distortion of perception leads to an overwhelming feeling of claustrophobia despite the open space. Once someone has entered, the initial feeling of escape is replaced by a creeping helplessness, knowing that the elevator is gone, and the exit door is just a false illusion in a mind-shattering, endless office maze. This feature contributes to -9294Z S classification as cheddar, given its ability to trap individuals within its confines with no apparent means of escape. CASHZERO is the first recorded anomaly. The interior consists of a structure with no perceptible ceiling, no origin point, and no end. The floor is submerged. Pools vary in depth. Some are shallow enough to step across. Others exceed 600 feet. Actual descent into these pools ends at 13 feet. Beyond this, movement ceases. Above the surface, the room appears to stretch forever in all directions. No markers remain. Light exists, but there is no source. No shadows cast. Water temperature is unchanging. Not cold. Not warm. Splashing sounds occur intermittently, but there are no visible disruptions. The water is otherwise still. Subjects placed in the space report consistent tactile interference. Something brushes against their legs. There is nothing there. Reports increase in room 66 of level 6. This pool is identified as the deepest. Subjects standing near its edge describe a low pulling sensation. Splashing is often heard from within, but no movement is visible. The room appears empty. Pools appear infinite. Proximity shifts subtly. Walking in one direction does not change location. The pools remain at identical distances. Attempts to reach the walls or define a boundary fail. Over time, perception distorts. Sounds echo where there are no surfaces. Individuals report being watched. Some see movement at the periphery. No lifeforms recorded. No visual confirmation. Emotional responses escalate. Anxiety. Dissociation. Obsession. Individuals sit beside the pools for hours. Some for days. They stare into the water. Wait for something to return. They report hallucinations. Underwater voices. Faces in the reflections. No visual capture confirms these phenomena. A researcher vanished after 46 hours inside. Final transmission. It. S not the pools. It. S the room itself. Room 66 was sealed. Entry restricted. Attempts to leave fail. Markers dissolve. Time passes unevenly. You cannot drown in the pools. But you cannot leave them either. Hand sanitizer scent lingers at every entry point. Entity classification, cheddar.
-9294Y alias YOUCANNOPLEAVE. Classification, cheddar. Status active. Access level restricted. Level 4 personnel only location of recovery, unlisted storage basement. REDACTED, Ohio-9294Y is a confined anomaly appearing as a small, unlit room measuring approximately 9 feet in length and 4 feet in width. Visually, it resembles an unused hotel storage unit or forgotten service hallway, complete with a warped metal door that cannot be opened from either side. Surveillance equipment consistently fails inside the anomaly. Devices either fail to power on or display only a static void. Inside the room is a single sealed window. When peered through, one sees what appears to be an infinite black space. Completely empty except for an oversized red plastic slide affixed to a stained yellow carpeted floor. The surrounding walls are yellowed, cracked, and heavily peeling, resembling backroom aesthetics or early office drywall that has decayed over decades. On the red tube slide is a phrase written in a capitalized childlike font in bold. Fun slides like child games. When the anomaly is triggered, either by entering the room physically if accessed anomalously or via hallucinatory event, subjects report being drawn toward the slide against their will. Descending the slide initiates a temporal distortion. Although the descent lasts exactly 4 minutes in measurable time, individuals report the slide lasting several hours or even days, creating a warped sense of reality. At the end of the slide, there is no floor. There is only a maw. A giant, fleshy mouth, constructed of human-like teeth, waits at the terminus of the descent. The teeth rhythmically open and close in an unnatural, mechanical cadence. It is unknown what happens to subjects after reaching this point, as no recording device or biological remnant has been recovered post-descent. One recovered tape plays only the sound of wet chewing and distant carousel music, looped on magnetic decay. Inescapable entry. Once inside the ASHNINETWONINEFOURY, the door becomes non-functional. It cannot be forced open, damaged, or bypassed. Even entities with phase-through capabilities report encountering a solid black obstruction behind the door. Temporal dissonance. All subjects report intense disorientation, with altered perceptions of time and motion during the slide descent.
9294F alias, the blooming field. Classification, safe. Status, active. Description. 9294F is an infinite plain filled with densely packed flowers and mushroom stalks, ranging in height from 2 inches to over 5 feet. The field stretches endlessly in all directions, with no visible landmarks, boundaries, or exit points. The sky overhead is pale white, featureless and dim, with no discernible source of light. All flora within the field is visually alien but non-hostile. The flowers emit no sound, scent, or movement, and there are no signs of fauna or decay. The soil is soft, dry, and uniform in texture throughout the entire known expanse. Anomalous properties. Perpetual isolation. Once inside the field, individuals are unable to leave. Walking in any direction yields no change. Compass needles spin erratically. Attempts at marking a trail, such as laying rope or placing objects, are futile, as markers vanish when out of sight and cannot be found again. Timelessness. Time appears to pass normally, though subjects report losing track of how long they've been wandering. There is no sunset or shift in light levels. The environment remains static, consistent, and deathly quiet. Psychological effects. While there are no hostile entities or immediate dangers, most individuals begin to experience intense feelings of calm resignation. No panic is observed. Rather, subjects eventually stop walking and sit among the flowers, often falling asleep and never waking up. Notes. There is no known exit. No attempt to escape has ever succeeded. No communication signal can penetrate the field beyond 50 meters. The flowers do not bloom. They do not die. They simply remain. This is where you will be forever. 9294G alias, the hollow pasture. Classification, safe. Status, active. Description. 9294G is an endless green pasture, dotted with low hills, small fences, and clusters of houses, constructed entirely from perfect geometric polygons. Each structure appears roughly the size and layout of a typical single-family home, but with unnaturally smooth, textureless walls. Triangles, cubes, pentagons, and irregular prisms, blended seamlessly together in ways that defy traditional architecture. Despite the strange composition, each house contains the amenities one would expect in a standard home: beds, kitchens, furniture, working plumbing, and fully stocked pantries. A television is always present in the living room, styled after 1990s tube sets. When turned on, it displays static or reruns of commercials from the late 80s and early 90s, but only the ones that never aired. Anomalous properties. Endless habitat. The pasture extends infinitely. Walking in any direction simply reveals more polygonal homes, spaced almost exactly 250 feet apart. The grass is neatly trimmed and always damp, though there is no evidence of rainfall. Sustenance and shelter. Every home contains fresh, edible food and clean water. When consumed or used, the supplies replenish once out of sight. The electricity never fails, and no wiring can be found in the walls. Absence of life. No living organisms have been recorded. No insects, no birds, no signs of prior habitation. The air is still, temperate, and always carries a faint scent of laundry detergent. Notes. There is no threat in -9294G, only permanence. It is a place of comfort, stripped of context. A perfect neighborhood with no neighbors. You may sleep. You may eat. You may sit in front of the TV forever. But you will never see another soul. This is not a trap. It is a waiting room. For what? No one knows. 45. Description. 45 is an anomalous predatory entity referred to in recovered documentation as the REAR thing. It manifests exclusively within abandoned construction sites, particularly those left incomplete or frozen in mid-development. The creature is never captured directly on camera. However, indirect evidence, such as warped steel, concrete dragged across gravel, and severed support wires, suggests it interacts physically with its environment. The entity's form is partially inferred through survivor accounts. It appears to be composed of rusted rebar, twisted cables, shattered safety glass, and segments of wet cement that never dry. Witnesses claim its face is made of a metal plate bearing the words DONOTENTER fused across where a mouth should be. REAR spikes extend like ribs or feelers, scraping against drywall and sheet metal as it moves. It does not produce sound unless provoked. Then, it groans like strained iron and stomps with impossible weight. 45 exhibits stalking behavior. It remains dormant until a lone individual enters the construction site, especially after dusk. Once inside, the site changes. Previous exits vanish, stairwells loop, and rooms repeat. Ambient light fades unnaturally. Victims often describe hearing footsteps above them on incomplete floors, the clinking of metal dragging behind them, or the echo of nails falling onto tile with no visible cause. Once the individual is isolated, 45 begins hunting. It doesn't run or chase. Instead, it appears ahead of the target, behind corners, beneath catwalks, just out of view. Victims describe feeling watched long before the first visual encounter. There is no known method of escape once 45 initiates the hunt. 197. Description. 197 is a parasitic anomaly that initially presents as a minor cold, fatigue, sore throat, and mild chills. Within 24 hours, a small reddish rash appears on the host's upper arm or shoulder. This mark rapidly becomes inflamed and begins producing fibrous, muscle-like tissue. The anomaly is not contagious through air or contact. However, its origin remains unknown, and infection vectors are still under investigation. By day 2, the infected area pulses faintly and emits slight warmth. The host may report itching, tightness, and a deep ache beneath the skin. Muscular strands begin moving independently, twitching under the surface. Small nodules resembling teeth or cartilage form near the growth. By day 3, the subject's arm is covered in slick, living tissue. The skin begins to rupture and split, revealing a hard and red surface that beats in time with the host's heart. The host may complain of hearing whispers or experiencing brief memory loss. They describe the sensation not as pain, but as something taking over for them. By day 4, the growth spreads across the back and chest. The host loses control of the infected limbs, which now move on their own. These movements are described as deliberate. Surveillance footage confirms that the hosts begin avoiding mirrors and windows, often stating, "It doesn't like being seen." By day 5, the host is fully overtaken. No recognizable skin remains. Their eyes are replaced by deep indentations in raw tissue. Hosts enter a semi-conscious state and become hyper-aggressive toward non-infected individuals. The body becomes stronger, resistant to damage, and emits a low-frequency hum, detected by nearby electronics. Attempts at removal or surgical intervention result in immediate cardiovascular failure. There is no known cure. Final observation notes. Case 12, Dr. Mares. He told me it itched. That's all. Said it itched and felt like his veins were buzzing. We gave him antihistamines. On day 4, I walked into his room and he was laughing, with his head tilted sideways, like the thing was showing him something. He said, That's not a sickness. That's what comes next. There was no person left in that body on day 5. Just a host. Classification, Cheddar. Due to its irreversible nature, psychological takeover, and complete loss of identity within 5 days, 197 is considered an extinction-level threat if uncontrolled. Full quarantine is mandatory upon initial symptoms. All infected subjects must be terminated before the day 4 threshold. 391 refers to a species of humanoid mimics that disguise themselves as adults. Usually warm, friendly figures such as teachers, camp counselors, neighbors, or even distant relatives. These entities operate exclusively in rural or suburban regions and are only ever seen by children under the age of 13. To adults, 391 instances appear entirely ordinary and unremarkable, showing no anomalous traits. The mimic's primary behavior is luring children away from safe or public areas. They are especially skilled at impersonating authority figures or people a child might naturally trust. They speak with calming tones, offer toys, snacks, or vague promises. Let me show you something cool. Your parents told me to come get you. Etc. The process of consumption is theorized to be slow and non-instantaneous. In rare, recovered audio captured from a tape recorder found near a disappearance site, chewing sounds were audible for over 6 minutes before silence. Blood is almost never found. No bodies have ever been recovered upon ingesting a child. 391 mimics undergo subtle changes. Their smiles stretch slightly wider. Their eyes blink less frequently. Some have been reported by other children to flicker briefly, losing their disguise for a fraction of a second, revealing pale, eyeless faces with rows of small teeth where a mouth should be. 391 instances cannot be tracked, followed, or filmed directly. Security cameras distort around them. Photographs appear blurry or blank. Only analog voice recordings and first-person accounts from children seem to register their presence. Children who survive an encounter become mute or mentally unresponsive when asked to describe the entity. Many develop long-term trauma or paranoia around adults. 391 cannot be contained in a traditional sense. Communities that experience multiple child disappearances within a short time frame should be considered compromised. Emergency evacuation and Protocol B12 mass relocation are recommended. Authorities must not engage directly, as doing so results in no observable effect or detainment. Take 6. He told us his name was Mr. Hollow. Said he was the new reading teacher. The kids all liked him. Every one of them said he smelled like candy canes and talked like a cartoon dad. When we checked the school records, there was no Mr. Hollow. By the time we finished the background check, 3 children were gone. Their desks still had backpacks in them. One still had a sandwich inside. Classification, Cheddar. 391 is to be treated as an active predator class anomaly. The public is not to be informed. Children should be taught a variant of the old stranger danger doctrine reinforced through analog visual aids. If a child reports an adult behaving strangely, especially one unknown to their parents or teachers, immediate investigation is required. Trust the child, not the adult. 391 Type 2 Description 391 Type 2 is a humanoid anomaly that targets individuals aged 18, 25. It disguises itself as a highly attractive woman, tailored to match the ideal preferences of its chosen victim. First contact often occurs in liminal or isolated locations, college campuses, gas stations, empty streets. The entity emits a psychological lure, creating intense feelings of infatuation and trust within minutes. Victims often follow it willingly, reporting a sense of familiarity or romantic connection. Once alone, 391 reveals its true form. Its jaw splits open, eyes stretch unnaturally wide, and it devours the victim alive. Photos and recordings of the entity corrupt on capture, showing static or unrecognizable visuals. Notable behavior. Highly intelligent and manipulative. Targets emotionally vulnerable individuals. Often repeats phrases like, I've been waiting for someone like you. Containment. No known method of capture. Prevention efforts focus on raising awareness under the guise of safety campaigns. Classification, Cheddar. Avoid contact. Victims are never recovered. Do not be afraid. It loves that. 469. The sign-faced one. 469 is a mangled, scrawny creature that wanders forgotten trails, abandoned highways, and long-dead ghost towns. Its frame is tall and unnaturally thin, bones visible through stretched gray skin, fingers dragging along the dirt and gravel. The most recognizable feature is its face. A rusted, bullet-pocked stop sign, twisted into a permanent, jagged grin. Locals who stumble across old stretches of road sometimes report hearing metal scraping across asphalt, followed by a distant voice mimicking familiar sounds, CB radio static, car horns, or someone calling for help in a voice they almost recognize. It stalks slowly, but with certainty, always appearing ahead no matter how fast one runs. There are no confirmed survivors who encountered it directly. Most who go missing on back roads are never found. The few recovered belongings often include shredded clothing, half-melted radios, and photographs torn down the middle. There is no known way to stop 469. It is not bound to location, only to disuse. Drawn to the abandoned and the forgotten. 812. The hunger rot. 812 is an incurable neurodegenerative disease, believed to originate from contaminated groundwater near an abandoned mining town. The infection begins with mild flu-like symptoms and heightened irritability, but within 72 hours, subjects develop severe aggression, insomnia, and an overwhelming craving for raw meat. By the 5th day, the infected lose all higher reasoning. Skin begins to flake and split at the joints, the gums recede, and the eyes yellow. Infected individuals hunt in packs, targeting uninfected humans and consuming them alive. What's most disturbing is their retention of basic memories and speech. They can call out names of loved ones, tricking victims into coming closer. Post-mortem studies show the brain is overtaken by a hardened fungal tissue, replacing the frontal lobe entirely. No cure or vaccine exists. The infection is spread through ice, blood, and contaminated water. Entire ghost towns have been sealed off under permanent quarantine, but reports of roaming infected still surface, often near collapsed wells or dry riverbeds. 312. The cellar beneath the silence description. 312 is an underground cellar found beneath an unmarked farmhouse in rural Nebraska. The house appears abandoned and structurally unsound, but attempts to demolish it have failed. Any damage to the structure is inexplicably repaired within 24 hours. The only accessible part of the house is a trapdoor in the kitchen leading down to the anomaly. The cellar. The descent into -312 consists of 37 narrow wooden steps. Upon reaching the bottom, individuals enter a low-ceilinged cellar with stone walls, dirt floors, and shelves lined with empty glass jars. Despite the lack of electricity, the space is dimly lit by a constant pale blue ambient glow that has no discernible source. Phenomena. After 10 minutes inside, external sounds are gradually silenced, including the subject's own voice and movement. After 20 minutes, subjects begin to hear faint whispers from the jars. Transcripts include pleas for help, unintelligible languages, and sobbing. After 30 minutes, reflections of the subject begin to appear in the jars, though the subject may not be standing in front of them. These reflections often move independently, making eye contact or smiling. Remaining in the cellar for more than 35 minutes results in the subject's full disappearance. Only a new jar is left behind, warm to the touch and containing a faintly visible silhouette curled inside. Containment. -312 is sealed off and patrolled. No exploration is permitted past 20 minutes of exposure. Jars collected from the cellar emit a low-frequency hum and should not be broken under any circumstances. -401 is an environmental anomaly first discovered beneath a collapsed commuter tunnel in rural Oregon. It manifests as a humid, windowless room with concrete walls and you are safe. It is going to be like this. Begin audio tape transcript. It's been 47 hours since the lights went out. Still no change in the shape on the wall. I don't think it knows I am watching it yet. But I think it's learning how to breathe. If you can hear this, don't respond to the knock. Don't even look at the door. Just lie down. Pretend you not real. It's still here. It hasn't stopped smiling. I think I am the last one. Redacted. Alias, the cursed IVM tape. This anomaly manifests as a seemingly innocuous reel-to-reel audio tape, labeled only with a smudged sticker reading DAISY. The audio on the tape is a version of Daisy Bell, Bicycle Built for Two, sung by the IBM 7094 computer, one of the earliest examples of computer-synthesized singing. The recording itself is identical to the historical version, with no detectable distortions, alterations, or hidden frequencies. However, those who listen to the tape in its entirety, exactly 1 minute and 58 seconds, will experience an irreversible fate. Within 12 days, the individual will die under mysterious and untraceable circumstances. The cause of death varies. Some are found drowned in dry areas, some suffer massive organ failure with no prior symptoms, and others simply vanish without a trace. Attempts to